Della, thanks for letting me cross your ocean. It's early in the
Thank
morning.
you.
It's like London International Awards 2022, 9 a.m. It's
That's
not easy.
early for Vegas.
It is early. So if I'm gonna stumble, if I'm gonna kind of like mumble, please forgive me. It's like my brain doesn't really start talking before like 10 a.m. So I got my cup of coffee, but yesterday we had an amazing night at the Neon Museum. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It was fun, wasn't
It
it?
was a lot of fun.
That
It's
place is
crazy.
fascinating.
Yeah.
That's a cemetery, a junkyard for science. Look, we believe that everybody's an ocean, and you definitely are an ocean. It's like you come from Fiji.
I do.
So it's like, I'm gonna cross your ocean with the 7 questions. It's a format that I created for like London International Awards. Like, most of the questions are rooted like in poetry, film, literature. Let's see if we can capture like some gems at the bottom of your oceans. Are
I
you
hope
ready?
so.
Okay, look. Positano, a cliffside village off the Amalfi Coast, you may know, and various villages on the island of Ischia and Procida near Naples were used to represent the fictional town of Mongibello in 1999 movie The Talent of Mr. Ripley. However, during the movie, during the set, the rain was unforgiving, the weather was unforgiving, to a point that it became a nightmare for everybody. So you had this amazing beauty of the landscape of the Italian Amalfi Coast, and you have this horrible weather, and they're clashing against each other. I do believe that whenever we go on production, whenever we do something, like there is always like these two forces, beauty and ugliness, coming together and clashing. Can you remember an instance where like either was like in a production or it was like in any other like assignment that you were working on, but you had these two, there was something that was so beautiful, but was something also like very noisy and that was tenting that beauty.
Yeah, first of all, great movie, right? An
Yeah.
amazing movie, amazing cast. If we just put aside who was the head of the movie studio at the time. But it was
It's
an
true, is it?
amazing movie
Yeah.
and amazing cast. So I don't know offhand, let me think of an assignment. I think, perhaps I have a personal story, which sort of led me
Right.
to the career and the work and all of that. I'm not sure if it's quite the right analogy for the elusive, beautiful coast or beautiful lady, I think was in the question. But as you said, I was born in Fiji and raised in Fiji. And growing up, I always thought that I wanted to practice law, the field of law.
Okay.
So my father was a very successful lawyer. He practiced for a really long time. So it was a great source of inspiration for me, right? But there was also something about the law, the beauty of the law for me at the time. I felt I really wanted to study it because of this sense of the pursuit of justice, right? And so if you know a little bit about law, you know that, about the scale of justice. You might know that the symbol of law is a woman, right? Lady Justice, as they
Lady
call
Justice,
her,
yeah.
which harkens back to Roman and Greek mythology. Anyway, long story. I wanted to study law. I pursued that. I went to New Zealand, where my dad's from, and I thought that was going to be the path, and I was going to have this beautiful law career. But it didn't work out. I wasn't cut out for it, and so I didn't move forward with it, and that was a great source of disappointment for me at the time. Actually, it was a great source of shame because I thought like I'd failed, like completely failed at this thing. But I stopped doing that, and I decided to go in the direction of PR.
That's interesting stuff.
And I haven't really looked back. I've had some amazing.
And when do you still think that was like a source of shame, or you now came to term and you think, no, that was actually destiny telling me that was not my avenue?
Exactly. It was destiny telling me that this was more.
This is not meant to be.
Yeah, it was not meant to be PR and and a career that in something that's more creatively leaning, right? While we're here, was something that was more fitting. And I have no regrets, absolutely no regrets. I love it. So now you're wondering, like, how does that connect to
No, I mean, it
Positano
connects
and
because I think that, like, even though destiny told you that was not the route that you should have taken, I still think that you have a lot of passion for love, because the way even you introduce that and the way you like touch upon the history and tell me that, like, Lady of Justice, so that there was some passion there. So I still think that there is a lot of beauty there.
It is, and it's funny you say that, because I still think that some of those sort of
Yeah,
inherent
I do.
attributes, you still bring them into a career like, public relations, right? And so, anyway, just to bring us
that's
full
a good,
cir-
that's
full-
a
full-
really
full
good
circle.
story. Hey, like, second question. So this is a story of water flushing down the toilet and lots of silence. It begins with these words: "Hello, darkness, my old friend. I come to talk with you again because a vision softly creeping let it seed while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain still remained within the sound of silence." Paul Simon wrote Sound of Silence when he was 21 years old. And the song was written in his bathroom, actually. Simon would often sit in the bathroom and turn the light off to concentrate. He say, I used to go off in the bathroom because the bathroom had tiles, so it was like kind of like an echo chamber. And I would turn the faucet so that water would run. I would play in the dark. You are like a force, like in the advertising industry. I mean, like we talk a little bit offline about your title, and like you do many things. Like you are in PR, but you are like now responsible also like for the creative management, like of your agency, like. So I'm asking you: is there a place where you go, or where you retreat, or where you spend a time just for yourself, that you find inspiration?
Well, I think it's...
It doesn't have to be the bathroom.
Well, it's near the water. I mean, there's water involved. So it's fitting, right, that we're
Right.
here talking on your podcast, where the central theme is about
Right.
the ocean and crossing
Yeah.
oceans, because I find, and it's probably because of my background coming from the islands and being in the Pacific Ocean, the water and the ocean is my inspiration, right? That's
course.
where I find energy, that's where I find healing. There's a lot of beauty in it, serenity in it. So I love being near the water, preferably near the ocean, the beach. And every summer, my family, we travel to Hawaii, which is sort of halfway home, since we're
Yeah,
on the
of
East Coast
course.
now. And if you know Hawaii and you've been...
I've been there,
it's,
yeah.
yeah, it's a very special, very sacred place, right?
It is.
And it has this, the Hawaiians call it mana, M-A-N-A, which is this spiritual energy, that comes from that very sacred place. So we go every summer, and I always feel like I come back re-energized.
Is there a particular beach where you go, like, or that you grew up, like a very particular? There is one for me, for instance, like this Topanga Beach in Los Angeles. Like, and we live in San Diego, so it's like, we are at the beach all the time. But
Yeah.
Topanga Beach holds like a really, like, it's a great space for me. Like,
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of special places, in Hawaii. It's a, the islands, the Hawaiian
Right.
Islands are a very, very sacred,
Sure.
very sacred place. If you just think about the history of Polynesia. And,
you told me
Yeah.
your mom is from Polynesia.
yeah, my mom's
you're-
Tongan Samoan. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome. I've never been to Polynesia. I always wanted to.
have to go.
Yeah, it wasn't like Marlon Brando had an island in Polynesia called
Yeah, he would-
Tereroa,
Yeah, in, near Tahiti.
near
Yeah,
Tahiti, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a beautiful, beautiful place.
It must be a beautiful
Yeah.
place.
So the ocean is a special thing, especially
Yeah.
the Pacific Ocean. I'm biased.
Okay, I have a question for you, and they like to call like an ocean divider type of question. The answer I usually get sit at the polar opposite, but I want to tell you a story before that leads into this question. Now, there is an actor who has managed to disappear completely in his roles, and he goes by the name of Gary Oldman, to the point that like Jennifer Lawrence once said, Gary Oldman can't get famous because nobody can recognize him. If I think about like his body of work, like even if you think when he did like Sid and Nancy, it's just one hell of a character, and then he turned into like it was like true romance, and he did like a pusher, drug dealer. It was a totally different character. You cannot almost recognize him. So here we are, one of the greatest actors of our generation, is like, that has become a loud house for many actors out there, has mastered the skill of disappearing completely into a character. You work in PR. When I think of PR, I think about visibility. It's all about, I don't want to really reduce PR to like a generic definition, but you think PR, you think press, you think visibility, being out there,
Yeah.
visible. How do you actually deal with this like visibility, constantly being out there? Is there any invisibility into the PR, in the PR process? So maybe like, some sort of invisibility that you bring into your life to balance this like constantly trying to be out in the press.
Yeah. So that's a really, really interesting one. I think there's two ways to look at it, right? I don't know that PR as a craft, or I should say as an industry, sorry, let me step back. I think there's two ways into it. There's one is the work, and the other is the industry, right? So when it comes to the work, I don't know that PR wants to be visible. Great ideas want to be visible, right? Great solutions want to be visible. PR is the enabler, right?
It's the propeller.
As a craft, exactly. It's the propeller. It's the enabler. It's the magic that brings that great work, those great ideas, those great solutions out into the world. So in that respect, maybe it wants to be invisible, to let the work shine.
Right.
On the other hand, when it comes to the industry, I think PR craves visibility. You could argue for the longest time the PR industry didn't get the credit it deserves, right? And I would say fortunately the tides are changing where PR is getting the credit it deserves. Some of the best work out there, even here when you look, you're looking at the judging, some of the best work out there is earned, at the core. And I think it's amazing. I think PR is finally getting to the point now that it's getting its visibility as an industry. And I think as an industry in the context of the collective advertising, marketing, PR agency, right? When it was invisible there.
Absolutely. I'm actually a great advocate for like a different use of PR, because I think like in the traditional like approach back in the days, like, and most of the agencies still do it this day. They bring PR only at the very, very end of the process. So once you develop the idea, you create the idea, the campaign is ready to launch, people think of PR as like just a type of press release. And I think that's what it should happen, is like a different use of PR, like bringing PR at the very, very beginning of the process. I will actually sometimes ask for PR to be sitting at the briefing, to actually even be sitting at the very first session of brainstorming with us creative, because I do think that's like it's paramount to have them there together with strategy. Creative strategy and PR, I think they should be considered just one team at the very beginning of the brainstorming session. Because I think, and media, hopefully media too, but these four like, set up can truly help shape an idea at the very, very beginning. But unfortunately for some weird reason, I don't know, of course, like for the way like advertising develop, most of the agency work like in silos and work with this like, timeline where there is creative, and then from creative you go like to production, then production you go to media, and then from media you go to PR. It's like it shouldn't be that way.
No, it shouldn't. And fortunately we're moving away from that, right? So, please tell more stories like that, because I think it's so important. It's gone are the days where PR is going to PR a spot,
Absolutely.
or PR the campaign. We're definitely getting more seats at the table from the onset.
My coffee just like spell out like the question. I can't read the question anymore, so that's it. No, I'm kidding. But he did spell out the question. Okay, so 4 questions, like prophecy are very common among sailors, and it must be that the ocean brings out like a sixth sense in us. Now, there was this guy called Jim Morrison. I was obsessed with him since I was a kid.
I couldn't tell.
You couldn't tell, right? Every time I go in Los Angeles, in Venice, there is a beautiful like It's a very like beautiful like murals of Jimbo right off like one of the building. Every time I pass there, like I just scream like Jimbo. Like, I love it, man. Well, anyway, he was like a visionary because, like that's what he said during an interview in 1970. This is what he said. A lot of people like Mozart were prodigies. They were writing brilliant works at a very young age. That's probably what's going to happen. Some brilliant kid will come along and be popular. I can see a lone artist with a lot of tapes and electrical, like an extension of the Moog synthesizer, a keyboard with the complexity and richness of a whole orchestra, you know? There is somebody out there working a basement just inventing a whole new musical form. I mean, 1970, this guy says something like this, and it's like that's what's like have been happening, right? So we talk a little bit about PR and like and how it should be used like with a different approach and like I'm always very careful whenever I ask question like the future of PR. But if you were to just like trying to jump forward a little bit, just take a leap forward, do you think like what would be like an interesting development of PR for the next like 10 years, like even in like a PR agency like your company, where can it go from 2032 to 2032?
Yeah. Well, let's go. I'm glad you went to 10 because I thought you were going to go to like 40 or 50 or
I'm visionary.
which is like,
you know Jim Morrison, right?
No, I love Jim Morrison too. So where do we go? I mean, I think there's.
Do you think? Let me help you. Do you think that before we sat down here today, I asked you like, how, like you do a lot of things, and then you say to me like, we are PR company at the core. Now you're offering so many other different things. It's not just PR. You wouldn't define yourself just a PR company, right? You say you run creative too. You have 5 global ECD.
Yeah.
This expansion, like around PR, where is it going? Like,
well, I think if we look ahead, well, there's a few things that are going on, right? So if you think 10 years, I mean, look, we've come a long way. Long way. Our agency, we've been around for 76 years. 74 years. It's a long time. So if you think 10 years, I guess that's not too far ahead. You look at a lot of the things that are going on now. I think the future is not on the fringe. It's here now. So you're seeing a lot of work that's coming out of agencies, that work that is also earned first. Metaverse, Web3, NFTs, virtual influencers, AI. A lot of that stuff is happening now. You're starting to see more and more of it in the work, and I think you're going to continue to see that. I mean, my hope for PR, my wish for PR in the next 10 years, maybe in the next 5 years, is PR is confident. Confident. PR is unapologetic, right? PR has a seat at the table with CMOs. PR is at the center of ideas that are, great ideas that are out there in the world. PR is solving problems, right? PR is driving business outcomes, societal outcomes that you can quantify. No questions asked, right? That's PR. And that PR is winning more awards at places like LA, more great work.
I like the line, PR is confident. That's a great thought. I think I hope that too, because I really love the time I work with PR to like elevate an idea, or trying to find the perfect place for that execution. I always feel extremely happy. I think that's confidence in PR. It needs confidence though. It needs confidence. I think we're not at the point where there is a seat on the table for PR. It always I feel like if there is a table and there is people around the table, PR is standing behind, just watching, and then at the end someone say, hey, you can come now. But no, you're right. 5th question, a standard atmospheric condition for an observer with eye level above sea level, the horizon is at a distance of 3.1 miles. But when observed from very high standpoints, such as space station, the horizon is much farther away. and encompasses a much larger area of the Earth's surface. This fact is proof that in life everything changes according to the perspective you are looking at, the perspective you use. You were deeply affected by perspective. Our perception is affected by perspective, right? We are pretty much like living and walking like coordinates. Now, how did your point of view change from becoming like a mom? I mean, like we just talk about, it's funny because I always say this, right? Like, I think we met first time, and I think in the very first 10 minutes of our conversation, you mentioned that you have a kid. You're talking about like that your kid is like 6.7, 6.7, 6'7",
Yeah.
which is extremely tall, right? There is this saying that goes like in the very first 10 minutes of every human interaction between two people that don't know each other, these two people drop in these 10 minutes everything that is very important in their lives. Somehow, they find a way to touch upon the things that are truly important in their life. In fact, I remember, like, I told them about my kids as well. I think I told you about, like, you told me about, like, your heritage, which I asked you. I told you about literature, like, literally in 10 minutes we say to each other already, like, everything that counts for us.
Yeah.
So how did it change, like, being a mom in advertising for you?
Well, thank you for saying that. So I have two kids, Sage, who's 20, and Leilani, 17, and they're, as you know, as a parent, they're just you're so blessed, right? They're just such a special gift. I think for me, by the way, I love the idea of we are living coordinates.
Mm-hmm.
I really love that. It's nice. So I think for me, perspective may be changed in a few ways. I think as a human, as a colleague, as a leader, I think I developed more compassion. Right? More empathy. I think that happens, hopefully, happens naturally.
More patience.
More patience. When you become a parent. And that's important, that you have that compassion and that empathy, just be a good human. I think on the second level, it may be, so disavowed me of the notion that in agency life, which is hectic, right? Agency life is so hectic that there's no space for anything else, right? And so having kids sort of forced me to take a beat and think about life. And, a lot of people talk about work-life balance. I talk about work-life integration, right?
Absolutely,
it's like, how do you bring those things together? So that, I changed my perspective about creating space for life. And then I think the third thing is just changing perspective about the kind of work that we do, and having meaning in the work that we're doing. Being in the PR industry, it's like, we have the opportunity to make a difference in the kind of work that we're doing. Like our kids, like they're the future, right? And it's not a cliche, it's a fact. They're our future, they're the next generation. They're going to take forward our legacy, whether our legacy is good or they're going to take forward our legacy, good and the bad. And so, we have an opportunity. I think my perspective is that we have an opportunity to do the kind of work that's going to make things better for them.
That's interesting. My kids give me before having kids as a creative, I was always scared, I'm gonna have kids, my creativity, the way I come up with idea is gonna be affected, and it's not gonna be as good as I think it is. And then I had kids, I remember after my older one was born, what I noticed it started giving me balance. My idea were fluctuating. Before it was very much huge peak, huge down, huge peak, huge down. Would go literally and then it gave me that kind of stability and balance. Literally in the process of coming up with the idea that I didn't have. So definitely I think it was different. It was just different. I won't say that it's better before, but it just in the mind of a creative, it's different. It gave me an extra gear that brought me straight into discipline, have more discipline into my life, into my creative process. I didn't have that before, but I think that's what I got from them. To have a little bit more discipline.
That's amazing. Yeah. I feel so my son is the the creative one in the family, right? So he's studying music production, and he used to, grew up acting and making music and dancing and singing and everything. And I feel like he's more creative than me, and so I get a lot of creative inspiration from
they
him.
can shape your creative approach, even if you, like, in a way that you could be not aware of it. So I remember this writer, Raymond Carver, became one of the best short story writer in America, right? And someone asked Raymond Carver, well, why did you not write like long story? And he was like, I just didn't, because I don't have time. I had a kid, I had like a lot of responsibility, and the only thing I could do it was just writing short story. So he literally became the best of short story, not because it was inside him, he just adapted to the environment.
Yeah.
And I think like, I think there is some truth into it, like, Anyway, this question, fish don't know they are in water. If you try to explain, they will say, water, what's water? They are so surrounded by the element. They can't see it until they jump outside, and then they understand probably, okay, there is some liquid there. That's where we were. These excerpts come from a book titled like Hell Yeah or No. And when I first read it reminded me of how I feel about our industry. I think that we don't know we are in advertising, and you step out of this bubble and you see ourselves from outside, right? I mean, this is a beautiful bubble that we are in, like, Las Vegas, London International Awards, like an incredible, like, organization. But it's still a bubble, like when you step outside or someone coming from outside, like poking the bubble and bursting this bubble, like, you can see that we are truly encapsulated, like it just us, right? Does it happen to you that you have this full realization that's PR and like what you do every day just like contained into this little bubble, but then like as you step outside, you see things in perspective, and you kind of recalibrate. For us, creative happen all the time, right? Like, we get obsessed with ideas. We get like maniac with the executions, like, for the extreme love that we have. But then, and that bring like almost like a imbalance in like perspective and priority, right? But then if you are able to step outside for a moment, you think, oh, okay, wait, like this is still advertising,
Yeah.
Does it happen to you that?
Well, I think you're right. I think there is an element of being in your bubble. I think the same can be said for a lot of our industries, right? Especially when we've been in that industry for a really, really long time. I mean, I've been doing PR for more than a couple of decades. Let's leave it at that. It's like, who's counting? And only being in the PR industry, and very happy being in the PR industry in this line of work. But you're right, there is an element of being in that bubble, and I think stepping aside is important. Being here is important, because we're not here with just, we have our creativity in PR inaugural jury, which is amazing, right? This is the first time that PR is going to be part of the competition this year.
But stepping aside is no, please go.
No, I was just going to say being in the company of others, right?
Right, of course.
Because while we talk about advertising, we talk about marketing, we talk about PR, being able to just cross-pollinate,
Right.
Because we are one industry and then we're not, right? Because we're different disciplines and different crafts within the bigger, marketing services, and brand marketing world, right? So I think it's very important. I think it's important to step outside of that world and get some outside perspective.
It's an exercise that I do all the time, because if you think about this, can be applied to many things in life. I'll give you an example, right? If you invite me to your house, right, and I just walk into your home, like, probably there is a smell, like, that you can't smell because you live in there, but I can't smell, right? Same things happen with, like, for instance, like, say, if someone that, like, let's say a cousin of yours comes in and visit you after many years, you probably see your son, oh my God, you've grown up so much. But you can't see as he sees, because he is not living with him every day. So it's this constant being in an environment that make, like, you know, time and space completely different from someone that come from a totally different environment. You know what I mean? It's
I
like,
totally
you
get
know,
it. I totally get it. So I think that, you know, then that just makes me reflect on in our business, you know, whether it's our agency or other PR agencies, when we're recruiting for talent, right? Before, you would come from a journalism background. You would come from a communications background, a marketing background. You know, now we're increasingly recruiting, you know, talent, including diverse talent from different areas of different fields, right? Different areas of expertise. We talked about law earlier. I mean, we've got people who studied law, you know, and they just bring a different. They're joining the PR industry, but they're bringing a very different mindset and a different set of skills with them, right? And I think that keeps it more dynamic, I think.
Okay, look, we really close to the shore. This is the last question. You just arrived yesterday, but I do believe that Vegas is a place where, like, memories are formed, like, very, very, like, fast. Like, you know, you went to the Neon Museum yesterday. You've been around a little bit. Like, you know, it's a very weird place. So I'm gonna ask you, like, you know, the day you're gonna leave Vegas and you're gonna leave, like, you know, London International Awards, you're probably gonna pack your stuff, like, put some memories into, like, you know, pick up 2 of these memories, like, you know, even if they're not yet formed, but give me 2 memories and put it, like, one in your luggage and one in your carry-on. Which one goes where and why?
One in the luggage and one in the
carry-on.
carry-on. So I think 2 things. 2 things I will take away. One, relationships, right? Personal connections, new friends. I think, you know, we've all been sitting in front of Teams, Zoom, WebEx for the last 3 years, so we've kind of lost touch of some of that, right? And we're all coming together and spending more time together. But we lost that personal connection and the ability to just meet people and spend time face to face, and, you know, which just fuels your soul and your brain and your intellect, right? Just being with people. And I think I'm going to take that away. I'm trying to see if I got this right. I'm the extrovert, introvert, you know, the one that is okay in public, but then you got to go sit somewhere, like in your quiet place, like Paul Simon in the bathroom. But I will, you know, I will take away, I think, the value of meeting and getting to know new people, and learning from new people. I think I will take that one in the carry-on.
Because it's the most precious one.
It's precious.
Where the luggage can be lost. That was the intent
of the
question.
That's the intent. Well, I went a different direction with that. So I was going to say, in the luggage, I'm going to take the work.
Oh, because it's big?
Because it's a lot.
It's a lot.
You know, we're here, you know, and we're going to see, you know, a lot of great, hopefully amazing work. But it's a lot of work, and, you know, judging over a limited amount of time. You get to see the work and appreciate the work, but you don't fully appreciate it maybe because it's such a compressed period of time, right? So I want to take all the work away and just, like, soak it up and share it and spend more time with it and all of that. But that one, where I was going was, like, it's going in the luggage because there's too much, it's not going to fit in the carry-on.
Oh man, Della, I can't thank you enough for being, like, so lovely, like, you know, and great answers. Like, I'm so happy that we met.
Thank you.
And, like,
Very
I
much.
wish you all the best.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.